So can you tell us the top 3 things that you would recommend any new business owner does when they first start out to support the growth and sustainability of their business?
Yeah, I love this. I think for me, the big...
Hey guys, welcome to the Happy Way podcast, your go-to place for all things fun, happiness, well-being, growth, trust, and diversity. I am your host, Melissa Fideli, and I am here to inspire and connect everyone who chooses health and happiness so you can be your healthiest self and live life the happy way. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am super excited about today's episode. We have Yovanka Loria, who is the accidental entrepreneur, and she is taking the hairdressing industry by storm. You may know Yovanka from her high-end extension line, which she launched in 2018 and has quickly become a signature global brand. After 25 years of hairdressing, the mum of 2 opened up her home salon in 2017 and started exploring the concept of creating a high-end extension line. Yovanka's extensions are stocked in over 60 salons in Australia and over 400 salons in the US. Her growth is continuing month on month and is not showing any signs of slowing down. She is creating new benchmarks for the hairdressing industry and influencing women all around the world. Today, Yovanka is going to share her secrets of how you can do it all and how to leave a mark in the business world. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here. There's so many amazing questions that I want to ask you today, especially with business. But I want to just mention that I actually got your extensions 3 weeks ago now. Life-changing.
I know, so like when all this happened, I was like, oh, how perfect is it to share, and especially someone that's just had them done for the first time.
The best decision I ever made. I was thinking about it for years and I was like, oh no, I'm scared it'll damage my hair. But then after doing so much research into your product line, I was like, all right, these are amazing.
I've got to give these a shot.
Yeah. So I want to start by learning more about why you call yourself the accidental entrepreneur. So how did that come about?
Well, honestly, like this all started as a little side hobby. I just knew what was lacking for me as a hairstylist. And when I was, trying to achieve all these amazing colors and tones for clients, and I could never really achieve it. Clients were never really satisfied. Yeah. So I knew the natural step was always extensions, but I honestly didn't know that I could pull this off. Like when I first started, the partner that I've got in America, they were really my first set of inspiration where I looked at something and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't make this work. Also, when I was working back in America when I was 23, I remembered hand-tied hair. There was a girl doing it in the salon, but obviously, at that point I wasn't ready for it. And the way that they were doing it, I was like on corn braids and they were sewing it in and I was like, I can't corn braid. That's one thing that I can't do. I can do anything in hair, but I couldn't corn braid. So when I first started, I was really naive going into it. I think there was 2 aspects of what I wanted to do. And that was also, I remember I was like, I'm at that point where I wanted to work smarter, not harder. Yeah. I had my 2 little kids and I was really, subconsciously starting to realize that we were in such an undervalued industry. Yeah. And I knew instinctively that I wanted to specialize in something because that was where I was at. I knew that I could do less clients, charge more, and then also be able to deliver something in a way that without extensions, the color doesn't last. You could, be coloring forever and you just wouldn't get the results. And then not only that, the other flip of the coin is that you've got to do more. More, and it was just the reward wasn't there. So that's essentially how it happened. And then when I got my hands on the product, and again, going into this was so naive because when you start dealing as a supplier with a vendor, there's certain expectations. Like they don't put expectations on you in the beginning, but down the track, they're like, come on, little girl, you want to play, you need to, reach a certain benchmark and order minimum quantity order. Yeah. So then when I got the product, I knew that I had something really special. But I was like, all right, well, now I have to get out of my comfort zone. And it's, all those little things that we speak about being a mum, that mum guilt, can I actually pull this off? Do I have time? And it's a little bit of fear.
Of course.
You know, I think that we all have the limiting beliefs, that little voice telling you, you know, who do you think you are? That imposter syndrome was really, you know, prevalent back in the beginning as well. But slowly, everything just kind of, you know, with steps that I'll go into, but it kind of fell into place.
Amazing. I love that story because, you know, it's so at the start of anything, it's always going to be so hard. You're always going to have that voice in the back of your head. You're always going to have that fear. But like you said, step by step, if you just keep at it and you believe in yourself, you never know what can come.
100%. And I think also with this, you know, there were so many challenges in the beginning, but it was weird. It was like, you know, I would go to bed at night and be like, you know, that anxiety of like, who do you think you are? This isn't going to work. That, you know, that story that we tell ourselves. And then it was like it was like a crackhead in the morning. Like I'd wake up and I'd be like, I'd figure out 7 different ways of how I was going to make this work. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In the mornings I was like fully charged and I was like, no, I just, you know, kept forging at it. Yeah. And I think, you know, within, you know, 3 months, the more clients like yourself, the response that I was getting from clients was just, you know, honestly, like what's that word? It was just so unassuming. Like I didn't expect it because before we never had that with clients. They were always ready to be like, the color's not holding, this is not happening. Yeah. But they were just honestly so grateful. Yeah. And it was life-changing. So getting that little bit of feedback from clients, I think that was a bit of fuel. Like they were giving me more confidence and not that I didn't have in myself as a skilled hairdresser. It was, you know, the task of, because I knew how much I was investing in this. Of course. And I knew that in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, like this is really blowing, you know, the budget out for people because who's going to pay $2,000-3,000 for extensions? Yeah. Because, you know, back, you know, when I was younger, I remember my cousin and I, we were paying for, it wasn't even us paying, it was our parents paying, you know, for extensions back in the day, and it was like $1,500. Yeah. Do you know what? And then what happened is I think it got such a bad reputation because of the damage, and then, you know, hairdressers were like, we're not doing this anymore. So what happened is non-qualified hairdressers were taking it on. Yeah. And they weren't qualified, then they were getting, you know, the cheaper products and putting it in clients' hair. So it really dropped that ballpark figure. Yeah. But look at the results. Yeah. You know, clients weren't, you know, they weren't getting a custom color. They weren't even getting a custom blended. And it made even hairdressers more turn their nose towards it, you know. And then they were going to, you know, hairdressers going, can you install this? And hairdressers didn't know how to say no. Yeah. So they'll be like, sure, I'll just watch something on YouTube or I'll just figure it out and put it in. And there was real disaster mode. So that's, you know, the evolution of the education behind it was something that I caught on quickly. I was like, if I'm going to make this work, I really have to set really strict guidelines and standards, and if we're going to be able to pull this off. So that's really how that happened. Yeah. So you've obviously done incredibly well for yourself, and the beauty of social media is that we get to see that exciting side of the business. But I remember when I first met you, you made a comment about everyone's seeing you now, everyone's seeing your success now, but no one ever really saw those, you know, 5, 10, 15 years prior to this of all that hard work, all the no's, all the anxiety, all of that. 100%.
Yeah, and I think people really want to believe in the overnight success. They really want to be like, oh, she started this a year ago, now look at her. But, you know, what is your advice for someone looking for that overnight success?
It doesn't exist. Yes. It really doesn't. Yeah. And I think I spoke like I'm a Capricorn, and I think I look back, you know, when I was 12 years old, like I had to beg my dad to work. I remember him saying, you don't need to work, you just need to go to school. Yeah. You know, and I was like, please let me work. Oh, you know, gosh, so I was begging to go, and I think it's just part of my DNA. Yeah, and that's hard. I think I see it in a lot of young girls that come and go, like their work ethic is just not what and I don't even put my work ethic on my girls and my team. Yeah. I have to be really careful because, you know, this is my dream. It's not everyone's dream. But I think anyone going into it, they have to really realize, I think if I make a comparison, and I see it all the time as well with someone building a house, you know, and these young, you know, even when I was younger, we're already picking up pillows and, you know, all the pretty little things, but you really don't understand the foundational pieces that it takes. And then when you get into even doing, you know, getting in bed with a building company, you're like, shit.
Yeah, what do I do
Things, you know, it's a challenge because all the little details and the money behind it and the investing, and you don't even think about it. And I think that's what happened also with myself, but I had the education behind it and the skill set. But what I didn't have is that 80% of mindset and psychology. And that's what I had to work on. And I think it was a combination of a little bit of, I think, right timing. I was ready for it. My kids were a little bit older. They were at school. So, and I had a supportive partner. I think that's a really big thing. But it doesn't take away the fact that, you know, for the first 2 years, I was doing everything on my own. I was doing the marketing. I was doing the social media. I was the one putting the kids, you know, to bed. Not that my husband wasn't, but, you know, continuing on doing the admin, learning. I didn't know, like, you know, I laugh now because 7 years ago, I didn't know what a hashtag was. You know, when people were showing me photos on Instagram and I was like, oh, that's a pretty photo, but what's all these noughts and crosses at the bottom? And they're like, that's a hashtag, do you know? So like I say, the world was my oyster because we had, you know, access to YouTube. And I really, honestly, I don't give myself enough credit, but I really did. That was my source of, you know, learning YouTube and doing whatever courses, because the internet was, you know, a big thing at that point. You know, and then I think, you know, within that year, like things just blew up in such a big way. And I was, you know, consciously had to make a decision to get out of my own way and get out of my comfort zone, because I quickly realized this is a lot bigger than just me. And, you know, it's funny now that I'm sitting here doing a podcast and, you know, everyone's seeing me up doing all these media training, but people really don't know how I struggle. And I still struggle with that because I'm genuinely, there's an introverted side to me that I was really scared of putting myself out there. But I think it's like anything, the more that you do little bits and pieces, you know, it just gets better and better with time. And I think also I was really lucky that my husband saw that this was, you know, a potential to work. So he came into the business. And I think that really helped because he alleviated all those little things that, you know, I wasn't good at. Or not that I wasn't good at, that, you know, when you're spinning so many plates, if you start overdoing, and even now, like if I overdo too many things, you're not productive.
Of course.
Do you know? So I had to really branch out and figure out what everyone's zone of genius was. And then also, you know, employing other people. That was also challenging. And I feel like only in the last 3 months, I figured it out. And I've got the right culture and I've got the right team. But, you know, behind the scenes, it's always working and improving. But I think the biggest advice that really helps is I was constantly working on my own mindset.
So take it day by day, have a process, and don't stop working on yourself.
Don't stop working.
There's no such thing as overnight success.
There's no such thing. And I think the biggest thing is be careful what you wish for. Because then when you get it, you don't want to be ungrateful. And I don't think building a younger team or even a team in general doesn't, you know, some are a little bit older as well, but no one wants to work for someone that's highly stressed, that's not in control, that's not grounded. So I always say we're not perfect, but you have to create that environment where you can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
And you can fuck up and make mistakes. Do you know? Because if you don't, I grew up in a time when, you know, mistakes were very looked down upon. Management was... It just, you know, I spoke about it with my girl, like it was all very policies and procedures, but their morals and ethics and their culture was so shit, you know, whereas with me, it's the opposite way. Like my policies and procedures and systems all come into play, but like what upsets me more is if my girls don't get along, or if my team's not getting along, or, you know, if I don't have the right clientele, like that was more upsetting to me. It's about the energy. I feel like if you get that right and you're very clear, like now when someone comes on, I've created a really cool onboarding process and it's very clear about expectations and what our mission is, what our values are. It all ties in, because then there's no room for, you know, for having like where your values don't align. I think that's a big thing.
That's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing.
So something I really want to get your advice on today is being a mum in business. Now, some may agree with me, some may not, but personally, I have always put this limiting belief on myself that I need to be successful now, because when I have kids, it's just going to be too hard. Now, you are the perfect example of this, because your business really took off when you had your children. So what are your thoughts on this, and has this been a limitation for you or more so a strength?
I think now that I look back, it's a massive strength because for years I kept asking other business owners and mums, you know, how do you do it? How do you do it all? And I think now that I've done it, I think also the biggest takeaway is, I was saying this to one of my girls the other day as well, like I remember working on a Sunday and saying to my daughter and my son, I'm really so sorry, like Mummy has to work today. And my daughter turned around and said, Mum, stop, like you're helping people and you're doing this for our future. And just that little push, gave me like, that's the biggest gift that you can give your kids is them seeing, because you can't bullshit a child.
No.
They know, they feel it, and they know that when you're doing something that you truly love. And if I can pass that on to them, again, I think it comes back to me just being passionate, like I truly love what I do, so I don't even see it as work. But I have had, and to this day I still struggle with setting boundaries and knowing I have like a bucket list. So each week each month I have a bucket list, and as long as my buckets are being filled, and every week it changes.
Of course.
Some buckets don't get filled for that week, but at the end of the day, as long as I know that most of them are being filled, I think it makes it okay, and I just don't sweat the small things anymore.
It's important to instill those values into your children, and I think you use that as fuel as well. You know, when you see that your children are really motivated and inspired by you, that in itself is so motivating. And then like you said, that's a great gift. You know, you're setting them up for their future and providing for them. And I guess as a mother,
it's the only thing you can wish for. I think in society, I know even growing up, so many people place values. Like you meet someone and what's the first thing they ask you? Like, what do you do?
What do you do?
No one ever asks like, are you happy? Are you fulfilled?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing. I drum that into my team and just find something that you're fulfilled.
Yeah.
And you can even see like with young girls, like, don't get caught up with, not stereotype, what am I trying to say? Don't get caught up in status or what you think. Don't chase just the money. Yeah. Because for me, that's one thing. I was chasing my passion, and then everything else came. Yeah. And getting really clear on who my target, like who my ideal client was. Who did I want to be around? Who do I want to work and who do I want to spend my time with? And then everything else from there just falls into place.
Yeah. So go after your passion and put that first.
Go after your passion. Because if you don't, I feel like the other way when I didn't have control over my clientele, I didn't have control over their energy. Yeah. So then when I finished work, guess what? I didn't want to talk to anyone. Yeah. I didn't want to speak to my husband, my kids, as well as now when I finish work.
You're so excited.
I'm so excited. Yeah. Like I feel like the biggest thing for me was I did this personal development thing, and they were like, so what are your values? And I was like, good question. Like for so long you're living other people's values. Yeah. And I think also for me, what's your background?
Italian.
So like Serbian. Yeah. So culturally we're taught and not even taught, like the subliminal messages that I got from my mom, she never worked, was take care of everyone but yourself. Yeah. Do you know? And that was a big mind fuck for me. Yeah. Because when I got into this, I was still putting my kids and my husband and everything above what I wanted to do or what
you wanted to achieve.
What I wanted to achieve, because otherwise you're like selfish or that's how it really was in our culture. Yeah. So then when I went and learned this values thing, I was like, oh my God, like your family and people that truly love you, you want them to live their values, what's important to them. Because guess what? When they stop, finishing doing what they're doing, then they've got enough to give to everyone. Whereas the other way, it's true, you're living everyone else's values, not congruent to you. And by the time you finish, you're like resentful and you're not happy. And then I think that is what, causes so much trauma in people, in yourself, and then it ends up being a shit show.
I really like that perspective of looking at it, because a lot of mums, like, even with my belief that I have, I think, I've got to give everything to my future children and my family and whatever else. But you're so right. If you're not putting your values first and doing what you find to be, beautiful and happy and things that bring you joy, then you can't then feed that to your family.
Can't feed it. 100%.
So it's put yourself first is basically what you're saying, and do the things you love and that make you happy, and then you'll be able to overspill that into everyone around you.
You can spill it and they pick up on it. They pick up on that because it's genuine. It's love, it's respect, it's you being in your moment and understanding your power. Yeah. And also it's a cultural thing, because women, I never looked at women in my circle or my family and had anyone that was even remotely successful because they were always taking care of other people. It was so far out of reach. Do you know what I mean? So I think also when I started this journey, it's so weird because I had issues even with, carrying this brand as my name in the beginning because I didn't plan on it being a brand. When people first came and they're like, oh, I love your brand. And I was like, brand? Like I'm a brand? And I was like, oh shit, I've just called this my name. Do you know? And then when we had a meeting and I was like, shit, this is going to go big and I know that now. Do we change it? And then we had a meeting with my family and everyone and they're like, no, it kind of works. Then I thought about it and I thought, you know what, how cool that my kids and my grandkids, can have that because it is about family.
Absolutely.
And they can carry that legacy on. And my grandkids can now Google their grandma and be like, oh my God, my grandma did that.
She's cool.
She's cool.
Yeah, she's a cool grandma.
She's cool. She's not that much of a stiff.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to get into more of the business side of things here because there's definitely a lot of things I want to pick your brain about. I think we can all agree that every industry is saturated. No matter what you do or what you start, it's either been done before or someone's doing it. And that can be at the start very overwhelming. So what I'm asking is, what is a piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to start something, but they're really feeling overwhelmed because, this person's done it or they're doing something similar? Like, how do you break through that?
Okay, I think this ties back into knowing your values.
Yes.
I think the minute I stopped looking left and right is what changed it for me. The minute I started looking inwards, and I got really down to what my core values are and what was filling my creative cup. It all changed for me. And I think that is the biggest because then you get to know what's true to you. And the more you lean into that authentic, it's a game changer. And then you stop feeling so overwhelmed because I think before we're playing to what this person is doing. And for me, I was now I'm going mega against the grain of what our industry is doing and I cop shit for it in the beginning and I still cop shit because it's so foreign and it's shaking up things that we're not used to, but I'm so invested in seeing the change for my life and my family's life and my team's life. There's nothing stopping me and I think you really get comfortable with knowing that you're on that path when you finally really listen to what what you love doing.
Yeah, I love that. So starting a business comes with so many ups and downs and lots of busy periods followed by a lot of really quiet periods. So as a business owner, how do you not freak out when you go through those quieter periods? I guess this question more so applies for someone who's maybe starting to gain a bit of traction within their early days of business. So how do you keep your cool and maintain a positive attitude as a business owner?
I love this question. So what happened, with COVID first 2 years, Adelaide really didn't get affected, right? We were that's when we blitzed because we couldn't go in, we couldn't go out. And I originally thought, oh, shit, my business is going to go backwards because I didn't know what to expect.
Of course.
But the opposite happened within the first, period of COVID because women were leaning more in towards self-care.
Yes.
And whatnot. And then at the beginning of this year, what happened is when, the border started opening up and COVID started entering, we went through a massive period where clients were dropping off, stockists were experiencing. So we ultimately had a downturn, but I wasn't even looking at that. And I was honestly busy to me, busy breeds busy. So what I did, I ended up just, it was so weird because it wasn't even me reaching out. I just got these young girls slid into my DMs and they were like, hey, would you like to collaborate? And I'm normally very careful how I collaborate with influencers. I don't really give away my product for free. But I was like, hey, what about if we did this? You pay for the product and in exchange, because there's always has to be a fair exchange of value if you're going to give away something. So you're very clear on what, it's not, if you give away something with no exchange, then people don't value it.
No.
Right? So what I did, that's what I did. And it's stressful because now I've got a team of 10 or 12 that I needed to worry about. But I was like, guys, we can either do this, we can either crumble or, really get stressed out, or let's use it to our advantage and start educating yourself. Learn something new, learn a new color, get some models in and do some content, learn something. So that's essentially what happened. And I think my brain just, when it's quiet, I get excited because I'm like, oh, now I can learn something.
Okay. So
do you know what I
use
mean?
those quiet periods to develop your skills as a business
Furthermore.
owner, whether that's within your business, whether that's on yourself, no matter what, use that time because that time probably won't come around.
It won't come
all
around.
the time.
It won't come around. And even and that's what I did in the beginning. I was really strategic. My husband and I, we were living, paycheck to paycheck. And it doesn't matter how much money you're earning, right? You're still earning, but your expenses grow.
Of course.
So it's kind of like you're in that trap. Doesn't matter what demographic you're in or what income sort of you're at. You're still in that same trap.
Yeah.
So even in the beginning, I was strategic. I was like, rather be dropping, the work that I don't want to do and be doing the work that's getting essentially paying less in the beginning to be able to build on that and get those clients.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I still utilize that. In quiet periods. And I think that's really important. Don't stress out because I think, I'm really into like low vibration, high vibration.
Yeah.
And I think that's a trap. If you get into the low vibration, you can spiral.
Absolutely. And it's easy to do that once you're there.
Easy. Yeah. And then panic sets in and then you're not thinking.
No.
You're not thinking of the big picture. You get caught in that trap. You can be really dangerous. And we've all been there.
Absolutely.
But I've really learnt to, think outside the box and think outside my thoughts.
Yep.
And that always gets us back on track.
Amazing. So my next question, I really want it to be a bit of a step-by-step kit for when someone who is starting a business can kind of come back to this and, take it with them. So can you tell us the top 3 things that you would recommend any new business owner does when they first start out to support the growth and sustainability of their business?
Yeah, I love this. I think for me, the biggest thing was organization.
Yep.
Really being organized. I think mums don't like hearing this, but they're like, how do you do everything? I'm like, you really want to know? So I wake up at 4:35.
Yeah, wow.
I think that's really important is having, waking up with that right intention for the day and setting yourself up, knowing what your goals are, but not being so like, to-do list.
Yeah.
Having an idea, but you can't stick with it because everything changes so quickly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So being a little bit open, but being organized. You've got to be organized at the same time and having that quiet time before, whether you're working with people or whether you're working with clients, being intentional to set your intentions for that day and for that week.
Yeah.
And then I think the second one is learning how to delegate. I think this is really important because I experienced this as well. And I think my team hopefully can attest to this. I'm not a control freak, which I think is really, really important to someone that's building something because you got to learn to let go.
Yeah.
And you got to learn to let, give, your team or your staff the space to have some input.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I employ people for things that I can't do.
Yeah.
So that's delegate is a big thing. Learning, I have this thing like do, delete or delegate.
Yep.
And that's been a big one. And I think the third one is automize.
Okay.
So you automize what you can.
Yeah.
And I think that was another big key thing because otherwise it's 24/7.
Yeah.
You're getting emails, you're getting even to this day, I think people forget. And because we don't really share, like I've got 3 separate businesses. I've got Whale Salon, Whale Extensions and Education. And I kind of have to have my hands in all 3. But messages are coming from clients in the beginning. They're coming, and you'd probably experience this, where you feel like you have to comment on everything and, be available to everyone. And I think setting clear boundaries and by is that how you say it? Automize?
Yeah.
How do you say that word?
Automize, you say.
Your systems and processes so that if you're getting bombarded with questions and emails, you can refer them back,
Streamline that process.
Streamline that process is really important. And now I've got people in place so that way if I'm getting, overloaded with like messages, I have to delegate. Otherwise you get caught up in doing the little details. And I think that's what gets people stuck where they can't then grow and they don't know where their time is more valuable.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
So if you could go back to the very early days, like those first few months of starting your business, what's one thing you would do different?
In order to grow, you've got to grow a team. And I think the one thing that I would do very different is not just overcompensate for people, and also when you're growing a team, be really clear. Like now I was more so employing people like, can you help me? Can you do this for me? Like help me, because then in exchange, when you're building a team, you have to help them. And I think it can really blur the lines between being really clear, because it's a job description.
Yeah.
And you've got to be super clear on expectations, because at the end of the day, if they're helping you, it kind of blurs the line where it's not a job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I had to learn the hard lesson of really setting clear guidelines and expectations and knowing that it's okay. Like, don't hold on to people or clients or whatever, just because you're scared, you think that you're not going to have time to train someone or that you're not going to have time to find the right person. Because believe me, the biggest lesson that I've learned, if you're holding on to the wrong people, it always holds you back.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And every time I would make that decision to let a client go or let a staff member go, like around the corner, something more amazing happened. Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing that I wish I didn't do, is hold on to things for a lot longer, now, and disconnect from the emotion. Like don't take things personally. It's not personal. It's really hard because people, this is your baby, or they would say, this is my baby. And, it's really cool that they say that, but really it's a dangerous ground to walk on, because if it's not very, clear, like if you don't set the boundaries really clear, it can get a bit murky. And then, I think that's been a big eye-opener for me.
Amazing. So to end this episode, it's been amazing. I feel like I've taken on so much from you, which is so good. What is one piece of motivational advice that you would give to someone who wants to follow their dream?
I think just get out of your own way. Take a bet on yourself. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just, face the fear and just do it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's it. We hold ourselves back. We tell ourselves we can't. But why not? Just try. Just
what do you got to lose?
Exactly.
Fear, it's just all created in our head.
Yeah,
like there's nothing.
that's it.
And I say, like, even if all this went away tomorrow, I'd still be so content and happy.
Of course.
That I've even pushed, myself out of my comfort zone.
So much.
Because you never fail. No. You just learn so much from it.
Yes, absolutely. Love that. So where can our listeners find more of you? What are your social media handles?
So my social media handles is just my name, Yovanka Loria, and Yovanka Loria extensions. So if they just typed it in, it will just pop up.
Beautiful. I'll pop them all in the show notes as well, so people can come and find you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing.
We didn't even talk about your hair.
Oh, it's all right. I'll share lots of photos about it anyway.
No, all good.
So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you have taken even just one piece of wisdom from this episode that you can apply to your life to help you grow and be a happier and healthier version of you. Please like, subscribe, and make sure to share us on your socials. Sending lots of love to you all. Bye. Amazing.
Oh, you're so good at it.
Oh, God. That was so good. You're so... Yeah, that was amazing. You're